So after a couple days of figuring out what I want to do with these catch cans, putting them on the passenger side strut mount, just like everybody else usually does. I was going to put them above the wishbone for the transmission, but I don't like the space it takes up. So over there it's nice and tucked out of the way. Don't have to worry about it. But what I did is I just pulled out the cruise control module and I welded a piece of 1/8 by 2 flat bar about 5 inches long, drilled my holes so that way I had room in between them. I've got them set at slightly different heights just so that my hoses clear each other. Yeah, so now I got to get some hose, that way I can route everything. I'm gonna need some of that. I'm gonna need some of that. So I'll figure those out and I'll be back. So we're gonna be hooking up catch cans. I've got dual catch cans. They're just from Amazon. Something cheap to get me by until I can get an AOS. So I've got a 1 in. This is the 1 in, 1 out. This is a 2 in, 2 out, or 2 in, 1 out. The 2 in, 1 out is going to be for the heads, and the 1 in, 1 out is going to be for the PCV crankcase. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a hose to come off of the crankcase vent, and we're going to run that up to the catch can, and then from the out on the catch can we're going to run it over, and we're going to tee off to the intake, the turbo inlet, and also to the fitting down there. It's the one-way check valve for the intake manifold. So the crankcase is coming out of, or the dirty air is coming out of the crankcase, and it's going into my turbo inlet and my intake manifold. And so we're gonna avoid that by running it through a catch can. It'll get caught in the catch can, and then we'll have clean air going to both. So yeah, to start with that, we're gonna need to get some 5/8 line for the in. We're also gonna need some 3/8 line for the out. But that shouldn't be too bad. And then for our in, I think for our in, we're gonna run off of that side and come over to the catch can. And then from the catch can, we're gonna run over to this. So we're gonna be jumping from this to the catch can, and from this hose to the catch can, and then from the catch can to this. And that will be all 3 hoses all balanced out. Yeah, so this is the turbo inlet, so this will be sucking air through. So yes, so our dirty air will come up to the intake from the heads, and then the clean air will go to the turbo inlet, which is what's going on here. So we've got air coming out of this side, we've got air coming out of this side, and they're kind of balancing each other out in the middle. But whenever you're on the throttle, you're pulling air from this tube or this tube, because your turbo is going to be sucking, and that's going to create a vacuum for this one. And so we're going to be eliminating this hard line altogether, and we'll have a catch can routed. Oh, this catch can will be going to my crankcase, and then we'll have this catch can routed to the heads, deleting this line. So in order to just make this a little easier, I'm going to pull off this tube. I'm also going to disconnect this clamp and hose down here. Actually, the hose is still loose from me fucking around the other day. So yeah, I'm just gonna get this all out of the way. That way I've got a good view of this thread in here. So I'll do that and I'll report back. Alright, so we got the intercooler piping out along with the blow-off valve. Now it is time to pull this off because, ow, I don't need that anymore. It's just a temporary line. This kind of looks like a 17 to me. So a little update, it is not a 17, it is in fact a 19 or 3/4 will work. I'm using a 3/4 because I lost my 19 and I just lost my 3/4 as well. Alright, I got my 3/4 back. Ooh, how tight did I make it last time? So when I put all this together, I put pipe dope on that. So I'm gonna put some more pipe dope on that when I put the new fitting in. I'm very concerned that my fittings are gonna hit the bell housing. I really don't want that to be the case. Cause like, that'll suck, right? Suck a lot. Okay, we're getting this slowly. And of course I wanted to drop it. So yes, this is supposed to suck air into the intake manifold. You can tell by just either blowing or sucking into it. You can't suck it, you can only blow it. This is whole plate, not plate, if there's suction coming back through, knock the plate down, and then there's a spring inside, all that fun stuff. You know they're good if you can hear them rattling inside, if it rattles inside. I mean, it shouldn't sound like it's falling apart, but if you can hear it moving inside like this, this is still good. So yeah, you wouldn't have to replace it if you didn't want to, but I'm just running AN lines, so I don't need it. It only needs a one-way valve. You know who's got one. So, actually, we'll keep this one new, and we'll take the one that's already threaded in over here. Sorry, it's dark in here. I haven't set up my lights yet. I want to, whoop, fuck. Way to go. This is where those lights I was just going to talk about setting up would come in handy. Little update. I didn't hit the bell housing. So we are good there. We've just got to make sure we are going to clear with our turbo inlet blow-off valve tube. So as long as we clear with that, we'll be good. I should probably do a test fit check just to make sure before I go any further. I mean, it's got to happen. So I mean, like, what choice do I have? It's gonna have to work. I just gotta figure out how to make it work. I'm gonna do a test fit. If it all checks out, I can finish this in the morning, I guess. Kind of running out of daylight. Girlfriend's also mad at me because I don't help out around the house, and we didn't do anything at all this summer, but I mean, she spent her entire summer planning a wedding, so I just kind of kept to myself and worked on my car while she dealt with the wedding shit, because I'm not a wedding planner. So a little update, I've got the intercooler piping back in place, and it's gonna be tight, but it's gonna work. I'm gonna make it work. I don't care what I have to do. I will pull the intake manifold off and leave the turbo inlet where it is and do it all then if I have to. I just leave this hose hooked up. Yeah. Probably get in there with some long needle nose and try and pull it tight, or pull it on, twist it on. Might even use a bit of lube. So, just picked up an external wastegate for the Subi. That way I can run my other turbo. So it's just gonna sit in there like that under the turb ski that I've got now, and then it's gonna dump down by the axle. Or I cut a hole in the hood and I vented out the hood. Haven't decided yet. I'll obviously have to extend that if I'm doing it out the hood, but I think it'd be cool to do it out the hood. I just don't know if it's gonna be like feasible wise. Like, I'm gonna have to really hide from the cops if I do that, so might hold off. So to run AN lines to your intake manifold, you've got that one-way valve that is threaded into the intake manifold underneath the throttle body. It's a British standard pipe thread. I don't know why they do that, but so I ordered a British standard pipe thread male end to a 3/8 NPT female end, and then I've got a 3/8 NPT male to a 10 AN male, and from that I'm gonna be taking a 90. So we've got our 90 now, and then I'll just be running my hose out and then along the firewall, right? Makes sense? It's just gonna loop up and back along the firewall over to the passenger side strut tower. So that's what you're gonna need for that. I've also got to replace the one-way valve that I unthreaded from the intake manifold. I ordered a one-way valve here. Yeah, so you're just gonna want to make sure that you put that in the right way. You're gonna want it that way. You want it to suck and not blow. So you want to be able to pull air in through your intake. So I'll just put a little fitting on that and be good to go. Alright, so in my box of goodies that I've been using to get all of my AN lines fitted, so I've got these adapters that go from 3/8 national pipe thread to an 10 AN fitting. So in order for me to hook up AN lines to my intake manifold, I'm gonna have to use a adapter that goes from the one-way valve and then put in, so it's gonna go from 1/4-inch British standard pipe thread to a 3/8 NPT, and then from the 3/8 NPT it's going to end up going up to a 10 AN fitting, and from the 10 AN fitting I'm just showing you guys on my intake manifold that's not in the car because, well, obviously it's a little easier, and I'm also just mocking it up just so I can get an idea of what it's going to be. And so after I have those two on, I'm going to be running a 90 off of that. So I ran out of fittings, so I was waiting on some, but this is what I've got done so far. We've got, coming out of the crankcase, dirty air going to the catch can, clean air coming back out and running to the turbo inlet. It also runs over to the one-way valve on the intake manifold. I've got a fitting that's supposed to thread into the intake manifold, and then an adapter from that fitting to go up to an AN line, and then I should be able to hook AN lines right up to the manifold. I've got to get a aluminum turbo inlet in order to hook up a AN line directly to that, but for now I'm just going to use a 1/2 inch barbed fitting to AN line, or to an AN fitting. That way I can just hook on a little piece of hose for the time being. Yeah, so I'm on my lunch break right now, so I gotta go back to work, and I will be tackling this after. So I'll show you guys how to put together some AN lines, just kind of show you how I'm running my lines. It's all pretty straightforward. Trying to keep it away from the turbo as much as possible, although these are resistant to heat, but I don't think they're rated for the same temp as the turbo is going to get to. But as long as we're not very close to them, I think we'll be okay. So I've got these lines plumbed up here. We've got from my crankcase or my PCV coming up and to my in on my catch can. And then from my catch can, we are going on the out. Then it tees off, goes down to the turbo inlet right there. And then this comes down, goes over to my PCV down there. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to remake an AN line, or how to make an AN line. We're going to pretend this wasn't set up. So I've got a bit of a kink here. I tried to do a bit too much of a loop, and it kind of fucked me. So, I'm going to disassemble this hose. I'll put a little time lapse of that right now. Hopefully you can see that. So now we just want to cut another piece of hose this long. I use the angle grinder personally. I don't know how you would cut it elsewise. So let's go do that. I'll find out what exactly tape it is, and if you really want to get it, you can get it. But I mean, like, my kit came with it, so if you're buying a kit, it should come with it. Unless you're buying a junk kit. So you just want to wrap up the end, get rid of all the frayed fragments and material. You got her all wrapped up with electrical tape. You want to shove your end on. It can be a bit tricky sometimes, but you just gotta keep pushing. Just keep on pushing. And you can see, I will show you right in here. You see that little lip right there? It's actually for your hose to sit up against. So you want your hose to be tight against that little lip. Once you get to there, you're going to start threading this into your hose. That's going to expand the hose, and it's going to make it be a nice tight fit. Alright, so I got all my AN lines hooked up for my catch cans. We've got our crankcase coming out, going to our catch can, from the catch can to one-way valve, sucking to the intake manifold, and the turbo inlet tees off back here after the one-way. This one comes straight on over and hits up with this one. This one comes around and then under the throttle body. I'm going to change this black hose. I'm going to change that over to an AN line. I just wasn't going to, but it ended up working for the valve covers. So I ended up using it for this on the turbo inlet, and so it should work on this one too. It's not too much of a curve. I should be able to get a line over to there. So I've just got to make one more end. And then, yeah, just clamp it onto that fitting. And then it's got all 8 of the lines running to my intercooler, or to my catch cans. So from this one, we've got coming in off of the driver's side head. It runs along the back firewall there with the other one, and comes into the catch can. And then we've got the other one from this side coming off of the valve cover up into the catch can. And we've got our out going back over to our turbo inlet to suck the air. So that's that setup. So I rigged up this fog machine so that way I can put it on a fitting. I'm going to use the fog machine as a smoke machine, see if I can find the leak, or a leak, or the leaks, because there's probably more than one. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So what my issue ended up being was the one-way check valve I got off of Amazon. I'm not sure if it was just staying open or if it was just, like, it's pretty big compared to the size of the one that was originally used. You can see right there. So like, yeah, and like the spring is pretty fucking tough, so I feel like this might have been the problem. I'm gonna try and mess with it, see if I can cut the spring, maybe take a bit of tension out of it, and then maybe it'll kind of act the same as that. Because I don't like having this big spliced in fittings, but I mean, it's gonna work for now. We're getting it to the dyno. Alright. I thought it was doing it again. But yeah, so catch cans are officially routed. This is the setup you're going to want to run. You have to use the PCV valve that came from factory. You could leave it up there. It was all tight and my lines were kinking, so I put a 90 to a fitting I showed you guys earlier, and we just ran a hose out, and now I'm to here. Let's just make sure that none of our hoses are getting too hot. Beautiful, they don't even have any heat to them. I'm sure once I'm ripping on it, it might end up warming up a little bit, but that's nothing. That's perfect. So yeah, that's a catch can install. You want to have your out going over here from your crankcase. You want it to tee off over to your turbo inlet. You're going to want your other end of your tee to go off and down to your PCV under the intake manifold. Your crankcase over to your catch can, and then for your heads, you want, so this back port here, you're gonna run out over to your in on your catch can, and then there's another one on this side. You want to bring that over to your catch can, and for your out, you're just going through your turbo inlet, so that way it gets up your action. So that's how you keep everything balanced inside these engines for vacuum.